my miracles. How are you doing today? Oh, I'm okay. So, I don't know how to start this off, so I'm going to just kind of give you a little bit of a background and then move from there. I grew up in a fairly small town. I lived out in the country. I was surrounded by woods. And from what I've been told, I was sort of like a very quiet kid, shy. I always hung around with my mom. And when I started school, I was still like that. And I had met another little girl, and she had told me her first impression was that she thought I was like snotty because I was kind of introverted. I really didn't talk to too many people. So, anyway, we for some reason we just meshed well together, and from there it was fun. I mean, we had the same group of people. We had pretty much the same interests. And I know I'm going slow. I'm trying to word this appropriately and try not to get too emotional about it. So in junior high, we had this big group, not a big group, about five girls, and we were all inseparable. We hung out every weekend. We went swimming. Did the if you could watch a movie that have you guys seen Now and Then? It was sort of like that. We were always together and always talking about boys, and we talked about New Kids on the Block, and we stayed at each other's houses, and we celebrated birthdays and called all the time. So it was your basic great friendship. And I'm not gonna say her name, but we when we were in high school, we had gone to the same church together and sort of kind of veered off in different groups. I wasn't a big fan of a couple people that were in her group, so I kind of, veered off into my own little group, and that shared a little bit more similar interests. So we actually had a discussion and said that, you know, we're not as good as friends, and maybe we should take a break. It was like a breakup. So we both agreed, and it wasn't anything. We weren't mean to each other. We just kind of went our separate ways. So high school came around, and did I say yeah? High school ended, and then I had went to a gas station, and she was working, and we just kind of reconnected from there. She was pregnant at the time, so we were on this new journey together as friends. She was, terrified of being pregnant, and she wanted to be a good mom. And so just, it was inevitable, the bond that we were going to, make. So she had the child, and I was in the delivery room. I saw this child. I felt so connected to my friend and her daughter. I was still living in Indiana at the time. I had met my then husband. Thank goodness that ended 6 years later. And we decided, after we were going to marry, that we were going to live in Arizona. So this friend and I mean, I did not want to leave Indiana, but I knew that my parents in the future were going to move to Arizona. So that was kind of, we were planning ahead of time. So this friend and I spent as much time as possible together with her new daughter, and the bond was just absolutely wonderful. So we moved to Arizona. She had come down, I think, once or twice. And in this, I guess, span of us being apart, she had lost her grandmother, her grandfather, her brother, and then I had lost my brother. So the bond between us strengthened because we could relate to each other. We could cry to each other over the phone. And, if we were having a bad day or if something exciting or something happened, I always called this friend and vice versa. Then she met this guy and they dated for, I don't know, a few months, a little, I don't know. I don't know the time frame. And I had went to visit her and also my grandma Lois, because my grandma Lois was living in Indiana all her life. And I had met her boyfriend and then eventually her husband, and I was asked to be maid of honor. So it was just you're a progressively great kind of friendship. I went to the wedding. We had a fun time, and I didn't know her husband that well. I didn't have any bad, horrible feelings about anything. So, God, this is difficult. Um, Came back to Arizona. Things didn't work out with my then husband. So, my ex-husband and I split up. And that was a really hard, tough time for me because I always looked at marriage, and I still do, even though I don't ever want to get married again. I always looked at marriage as very sacred, 100% involved, never leaving, never breaking up, never getting a divorce. Um, so that tore me apart. And while my friend was still living in Indiana, she was always there for me. She became pregnant, uh, had her second child, and then she had then her third child, and she has three children. So within the time of her having her second child and her third child, there became a kind of break. Not a break, but like a stretch of the friendship. This video might go on long enough. I just want to explain to you. Um, anyway, so um, and it started to be where she wasn't planning on visiting anymore. She had her own life, and I kind of adjusted my side of the friendship for that because I wanted to still be in that friendship because I thought it was worth fighting for. So I would call her, and I couldn't have a lengthy conversation with her because kids would be screaming in the background. And I don't know if I've told you guys this before. I never really wanted children. I never had the patience for them. I'm selfish. I like my freedom and being able to do what I want to do. So that was a big difference between her and I. I always thought that we would be married. I would be married, she would be married, and we could share in that aspect of our life. So now, newly single, getting to do what I wanted to do after a while, and it was tough. I don't know about her, but it was very tough for me to carry on a lengthy conversation. It was always, hey, I'll call you back. Most of the time, she never did, or she would call me back, and we could have a decent conversation. She would step away or something. So I would go to Indiana and visit my grandma Lois and her for probably about once a year. And, it's expensive to fly. It's expensive to eat out and all that stuff. So I was forking over all this money, and I came to realize that it was more my side was, I guess, putting forth putting forth more of the effort, and it began to weigh on me, and it started eating away on me. I remember one time I was in Indiana, and there was a fair going on, and it was Old Settlers Fair, and I remember talking to her and saying, "Okay, let's." And I didn't have a vehicle in Indiana because I was just visiting. And I said, "Well, can you come and pick me up, and I'll spend time with you and your family?" And she said she didn't have room for me. And it was it was almost saying that she didn't have room for me in her life. Whew. And I got angry, and I got upset, and I lashed out. She called me the next day, and I said I was busy. I just I wanted to punish her because she had hurt me so much. So I kind of got myself together and just really tried to move forward. Okay. So I came back home, and then my mom and I decided to move to Louisiana to be closer to my mom's side of the family. And it was almost like every time that I decided to move out of state or anything, I would call her so excited about this new adventure. And she would always, "Oh, Louisiana, and that's too many hurricanes." I mean, it was always a negative thing. It wasn't, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for my best friend. She's living her life. She's experiencing all this." It was more more jealousy, if I felt like, because I was single, I didn't have children. And I'm not saying that being married and having children is absolutely horrible, because at one point I was married and I wanted to spend my life with someone. So the breakdown of the friendship started, and I refused to give it up, because I loved her so much, and I wanted this to work. So we moved to Louisiana, and she never came to visit. And my last visit to Indiana actually was the last time I saw my grandma Lois before the funeral. She had passed away a couple months later. And it was so different that last visit. Sorry, guys. I didn't think I was going to cry. Because it just felt like her. She, I told her, I said, I want to just, you and I want us to go to dinner, go get coffee, anything. Because I think I was reaching out and trying to salvage and hang on to the person that I used to know, I guess. So she really didn't, she's like, well, I have to bring the kids, I have to work, and life gets in the way, and I understand that. But when I was married or anything, I always made time for her and our relationship. So she's like, she said, I have to bring the kids. And at that time I was like, well, can't your husband watch them for a couple hours? And she just didn't really answer me, and I don't know where that went, but so I get on the plane to come back home, and I land, and I felt really sad. So I come home, and she posted on Facebook, girls' night out, and she went out without her children, and I felt devastated because I had tried so hard to get her out by herself, and maybe she could breathe and we could have fun like we used to, but she chose to go out with other people. And so I felt lied to. I felt, like I said, devastated, and I didn't know what to do, because I really, really didn't want to give up on this friendship. When you invest in a relationship, you don't want to give up. So we kept in contact, and it was the same old thing. I couldn't really talk to her. She, she was so distracted, and I kind of changed and made myself more flexible. She would, I would say something, and she would just be rude and with her comments, and I was just like, and then when we decided to move here, it wasn't positive from her. She negative, hurricanes, and so humid, and I'm like, well, Indiana's humid, and it was just so hard to talk to her. And I would have a horrible day. I would start thinking about my grandma or my brother, and I would call her, and it was all on her time. So this is going to be a lengthy video, I'm sorry, but so I got a call from her, and she said that her oldest daughter, which I absolutely love, I'm so proud of her, and I'm really connected to her, had a tournament here in Florida. And first thing that popped into my mind was, well, if she didn't have a tournament, you wouldn't come. I mean, you wouldn't come to visit your best friend. So I was all excited, and I was working for Disney at the time, and she said, she asked me if I could get any discounts for her and all that stuff. And so uh, she came here and it was horrible. Absolutely horrible. I felt I got them in for free a couple days and I felt so used, and her husband was so rude, and he would tell her oldest child, the one that I'm connected to, that he couldn't stand me and he didn't like me. Oh, she's coming over. Great, And there was so the last couple days. I'm trying to end this video. Last couple days, I wanted to take her oldest daughter and have her spend the night. We were going to surprise her last minute, which my mom came up with it last minute. We were going to surprise her and take her to Universal Studios for Harry Potter because she is a massive fan. And my mom had texted her and said, "Hey, we want to surprise, your daughter." And she's like, "No, I just want family today, and we're going to go to Disney." If I would have known, well, it's like a last minute surprise, so you can't, like, if it pops into our head, we're like, well, she's going to go for it because she wants her daughter to experience all these things, but it never came about. And so her daughter had spent one night, and we were going to all meet at Magic Kingdom for my friend's mom's birthday, and I was going to get them in for free again. So I think this is the longest video. So anyway, almost halfway there, I received a text message from her saying, my daughter will not be spending the night anymore. Bring her things. I called my mom crying, and Vivian was crying at the time because we had already told her we wanted to surprise you and take you to Harry Potter. So I turned around, and my mom had told me that she had texted my friend and said that, said a few things that were, they weren't mean. They were just like, how can you be so cruel to your daughter when we really want to take your daughter and experience these things? So I took her daughter back home, and we got the stuff, and my mom got in the back seat, and I was crying, and she had called her daughter and said, just leave your bag in my car and we'll get it later. And her daughter's like, she's not coming. And there was a long pause. I could hear it on the phone. And she's like, what do you mean she's not coming? So basically, she was assuming that I was going to get them in for free, even though we had like this argument, not little argument, but this argument. And I was so surprised. And I pulled up to the quick drop off, and I guided her daughter around the corner. And I didn't want to see her. I didn't want to see her husband. And it broke my heart because I didn't want the relationship between her and her daughter and me to evaporate. And we've been in contact a couple times, which is good. But to drive away knowing that this was it, I couldn't do it anymore. I spent so many years trying to hold on to this friendship that was one-sided. And I don't know if this helps you guys at all. If you're in a relationship, whether it be a friendship, a boyfriend, girlfriend, anything like that. I don't know if this helps you, but if you feel like you hurt more than you're happy, it's not worth it. And it took me 20 plus years to figure that out. almost 30, and I still ache. I, I still ache for her, and I still love her. But the way that I was treated, and I felt used, and having her husband badmouth me, was very hurtful. And you really can't turn back from that. I guess I wanted to come on here and tell you that if you're like me and kind of have walls up and don't really trust anybody, it's tough to let people in. And to have somebody in my life for almost 30 years to share everything with and then have it disintegrate before your eyes is really tough. I wonder a lot what she's doing and how she is, but I can't bring myself to go through that again. I just don't want to do that to myself. I respect and love myself too much to do it again. And it's tough every day. If something happy or sad, I want to call her. But I know that this is the right decision and I need to stand firm. And as far as I know, she does this to, like, oh, I'll call you back, and she never does. And I don't know. Anyway, I'm taking up too much of your time, guys. But I wanted to share the story with you because I think a lot of people hang on to relationships that aren't healthy or good for them. And it's difficult to let go. But when you're constantly hurting, there comes a time, especially for me in my life, even though I'm devastated about the loss of this friendship, I'm not hurting as much. I don't know if that makes any sense. I'm happy, but devastated at the same time. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I hope you guys like this video. I don't know if it will help you. I hope it does, because if I were to watch somebody speaking about a long friendship that just ended and how they dealt with it, I think it would have helped me. So I hope you like this, and click that subscribe button. Watch a miracle happen. I am Miracle Girl. Click that bell for notifications. Like this video. I love you guys so much, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.